The thing that I recall of that day in 2009 when we brought the World Trade Center steel to York County and ultimately to this site is that every policeman, every fireman who was in attendance needed to go up and touch that beam. The Court of Valor was created in 2009. We had worked for a period of time to create this new Veterans Memorial, and during that planning process the concept was developed that maybe might be possible to get a piece of an icon from the World Trade Center, and that obviously did happen. In 2009 we were given a 3,000-pound I-beam that was retrieved from the World Trade Center site, and it now obviously sits atop our Court of Valor. Through several referrals, we ended up at the office of the Executive Director of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. That group did, and as far as I know does, own the site where the World Trade Center was and where the new new buildings are. And so once we made that connection, they began working with us in terms of how to make application. We did that. That whole process from request to ultimately we were invited, we were told we had been approved for a piece of steel, but we needed to come to New York and select it. And we had a very unique opportunity. When we began, in terms of the steel itself, it is very unique. They literally had tons and tons of relics, icons, debris, literally from the World Trade Center site. We were invited to an old Pan Am hangar at JFK to, in quotes, select the piece of the artifact, the piece of steel that we would use for this Veterans Memorial. And we knew approximately the dimensions that we were working with for the arch, the granite arch that we were anticipating. And in going through their catalogs, the piece of steel that we settled on was obviously what we have here now. We thought that with the rebar jutting from it, it speaks to the tragedy that day. It speaks to almost the savagery of the way we were attacked. It also happened to be 119 inches. It was only until the day we were setting it and people were measuring it. There was obviously a large crane here and carefully trying to set that icon in place, and the installers were taking measurements that they called out a measurement, and it's exactly 9 feet 11 inches. So you can imagine how sobering that was to have someone just call out 9/11 and realize, and it's the beam is exactly as it was used in the building. We were told that it would likely have been a lintel at some kind of window or door opening, and we thought that was also particularly appropriate since we were using it atop a granite arch that's honoring local veterans. Monuments and memorials are intended to honor and inspire, and I can't imagine, I was so proud to be able to bring this icon to York County, because I can't imagine someone particularly of a generation that literally remembers, as we all do this morning. It's 14 years, and driving into work today, hearing the radio broadcasts that came from that day, it takes you immediately back to that moment. There are certain things. I'm of an age when I can remember President Kennedy being assassinated. There typically, for most of us, there are 6 or 8 seminal events in your life that you can almost remember what you were wearing, what the weather was like that day, because they're so seared into your memory. And this certainly is one of them. So to have this icon from that day here, not just as a memorial, but really as a reminder. I've been asked on more than one occasion, why the World Trade Center steel atop a Veterans Memorial. And I think to me, it seems perfectly clear. That piece of steel reminds us that we will always need people like the people whose names appear in a court of valor who are willing to don a uniform, step forward, and really, as veterans say, write a blank check payable up to and including their lives in service to their country. We have now an annual event. It's always the Sunday after 9/11. So it's this Sunday, the 13th, that we will be adding 15 more names. We have a veterans committee, a volunteer veterans committee that set the criteria. York County has about 40,000 veterans. And each one of those men and women deserve our respect and our thanks. But we knew we couldn't put 40,000 names on a black granite arch. We wanted to honor those people from York County who donned a uniform, went into service, and distinguished themselves through a service or sacrifice. And that's really the criteria for having your name inscribed on the black granite arch here. Typically in a medals chart, you would be talking about a Bronze Star and up. It basically is any military medal that's awarded for valor, heroism, or sacrifice, such as POW or Purple Heart. And with the 15 new names that we'll be adding this year, we've added new names every year, since it was dedicated in 2009. As of Sunday, there'll be 355 names of York Countyans who, left their home, their families, served this country, and not only did it well, but did it with such distinction that they came home, being recognized by, their service with some decoration of valor, or sadly, some of them, gave their lives or were injured, in some way that they carried the rest of their lives. So quickly became very clear to me, not only was it appropriate to have this atop a Veterans Memorial, but also this icon is extremely important to our first responders as a symbol of their sacrifice. Obviously, we focus on many things when we think about 9/11, but for the first responder community, there is nothing in our history that comes even close to the impact on that community when you realize that it was something like 343 firemen, fire personnel who were lost in 9/11, well over 140 law enforcement. So it was the largest loss of life for first responders. So we're very proud that just a few yards away from this site, there's a companion memorial that has been developed here in York County. Rudy Art Glass created a beautiful 65 square foot glass mosaic depicting police, fire, and EMS personnel. And that will be unveiled this Sunday. The names of the fallen have already been carved in the base of that monument, so that really this whole area of Prospect Hill will be dedicated to honoring and remembering the service, both those who served our community and those who serve our country.